nervous system, trauma healing, embodiment, somatic experiencing. These are words that have become super trendy in recent years, and there is a reason for that. It is the next stage of understanding, facing our own humanness. And today we are going to drop into some really beautiful, simple shares around how it is that you can find greater regulation and coherence in your nervous system with the amazing Kemina Fulwood, the founder of the Coherence Lab, where she works with the intersection of the nervous system science and deep consciousness work. She guides people through profound personal transformation, and she's one of those people who's really grounded, practical, with an expanded awareness to what she does. She really wants to help people return to themselves without the effort and the striving, to really meet through kindness your inner coherence that lets real life change through grace. She will mention her sovereign self system that works with somatic intelligence and energy work, and you are just going to really enjoy the conversation that Kemina and I share of slightly different angles of nervous system regulation and really dropping into coherence. Enjoy. Allow your heart to listen. Really delighted to bring on a friend and colleague of mine, Kemina Fulwood, for today's interview on facing fears, and in particular our nervous system, which is something that she is a specialist in. So Kemina, I'd love it if you could begin introducing yourself by sharing with our listeners about how you became an architect of coherence and a nervous system specialist.
Thanks for having me. This is so great to be here with you. I've got a big story. It's so big. And I guess my life has been so huge. I've had all the really amazing highs and all the really ginormous lows that you could imagine and more. I've had all the experiences. And, I'm going to just give you a few because, you can't throw it out there and not, people are going, what are they? What are these things? So it's kind of like I, grew up in a family of one-word answers and, nobody communicated. There was no connection at all. I was really isolated and didn't really know how to communicate very well. So I was self-taught because I really didn't have any role models. And, there was a bit of abuse and stuff going on there as well. So everything, I was self-taught in everything I did. And that really led me to where I am today. I was Australian champion in Taekwondo. I spent 16 years working in all the large corporates in advertising. I worked for so many of the really big names that and it burnt me out. It was like my body was aching. And to be honest, if I hadn't have done the work that I've done today, I'm pretty sure I would probably be dead. That's how unwell I was. But I've got this. I'm not a lay down and die kind of person. That's not how I roll. So I was like, okay, I'm going to find a way through this. And that really has just been my guiding light of me going on my journey of, I had a partner tried to kill me. I had 4th stage cancer that I got over in about 3 or 4 months through energy work and natural therapies. And the list goes on and on and on. And I kept going, okay, I thought I had the solution, but clearly I don't have it all. So what else do I need to know? And so everything to me has been a gift. And that's, I face my fears, every fear. Like even if we're talking about fears, I had a fear of heights, a really extreme one. So I climbed up the Eiffel Tower instead of catching the lift like everybody else does. And I bungee jumped and I skydived and I, and they're really funny stories too, because I'm like so afraid, but I'm doing this thing because I always had that belief that if you're afraid of something, that's the direction you need to go in. There's something there for you to learn. Otherwise, you wouldn't be so attached to that thing. And so, like, this is funny. I was bungee jumping. It was on the Gold Coast, and it was over the water. And you get this crane up, and it's over the water, and then you jump. And the guy, was counting down from 10, and I got to 3, and I just went, "Oh, wait a second, I'm not ready yet. Can you just do it again?" And then so he counts down, and then I went, "Oh God, I've got to jump." And so I jumped, and I'm mid-air, and you can, like, everyone saw me like down below, and I was like trying to climb up and like mid-air. It was hilarious.
Oh, that is so cute, Kemina. And this is the thing, right? This is something you and I share, is that we're both, we would both be classed as fighters, as warriors, like we're faced with a challenge, and you and I both have that common thread where we're just like, what? Of course I'm going to go and like face that. And I'm similar with my fear of deep water. I'm like, I'm going to learn to surf. Now I'm going to learn to free dive. Now I'm going to learn to, and I just constantly, I'm like, next thing, what's the next thing I can keep doing to work through it? Because when we overcome a fear like that, when we keep progressing and moving through them, it's not the actual activity that we're transforming. It's something in the subconscious that we're not even aware of, right? That's holding us back in other areas of our life. And I think, and that's the key, is that it's just a sign. It's just a symbol. Bungee jumping for you is just the symbol, just like, although I don't like the idea of bungee jumping, I have to admit, but it's just the same symbol to me getting in water is, and like deep water, anything that's over my shoulders, I'm like, right, and it's like moving through that process. And so, not everyone obviously is born with that warrior energy that like, I'm going to turn this problem, this fear into my gift. So what do you see from the nervous system point of view that is why that ability to move through something we're fearful of helps you to overcome something in another area of your life? Like, what is going on with the nervous system when we're doing that?
Well, if we take it right back to like to the big picture, what's really going on, rather than going, I could sit here and talk about the sympathetic and the the vagal nerve and all those kinds of things, but let's take a really big step back and just go, what is really going on? So when stress and trauma happens, we kind of do this thing, right? We take a gulp in our breath, and in our body we have these tiny little clenches in different areas of our body. So when you take that gulp and your body clenches, that stress and trauma goes straight to that area that just got clenched, and that gets stored in your body. Okay, so now we understand how, because we all know that story, emotions get stored in our body. Now we understand the how, the physical, mechanism of what went down originally. So then we can understand, okay, all I've got to do is unclench, and then the story disappears. Okay, so there are lots of ways of going about this. So that's all tied to the nervous system. Okay, so the nervous system stores that trauma. It activates that clench or unclench. And so then we can go, okay, if I can just get my nervous system to unclench it, then it's gone, right? So if we understand the how, then we can go, well, what's the method in doing that? It makes it so much easier. So if we look at that fear, it's like, we're choosing to look at the clench. We're going, I know there's a clench there. I can't actually, like when you're going, like, for example, you're going, free diving and I'm going, skydiving. We're going, I know there's a clench somewhere. I'm just going to go and look at it long and hard so I can unclench it. And then, especially in these, adrenaline sports, there's all these hormones that get activated. And so they open up the channels to unclench because you're sending attention to it. We all know that story. Whatever you focus on, you create. So I'm focusing on my fear and I'm creating something new. I'm giving it a transportation out of my system through this activity, because it's, a lot of people just talk about things and go, oh yeah, I'll release that, or I'll detach that, or whatever, and I'll do the, I'm going to get more clients, and they don't actually take action on it. There's this whole kind of weird in the spiritual community where people just go, oh, if I just send out good vibes, the people will come. No, you actually have to take aligned action. And that's what we were doing with our freediving and skydiving, is taking aligned action. We're going, I'm going to face this thing. And, we've made a choice for it to not control us anymore. And if that in that choice, I have to do this really out there thing, then so be it.
It's that, to me, there's two things that come to me in that. One is like the style of how you move through it, right? So it could be that rapid extreme movement of the bungee jumping, of a skydive. Which I find quite easy because it's easy to jump. But then when I'm in it, I'm like, oh, this isn't very enjoyable. I don't really like it. I just don't.
Climbing up the rope again.
I don't climb up the rope. I'm just like, oh, can this hurry up? Like, it's just not fun. So I don't feel that joy of the adrenaline rush, if that makes sense. I'm just like, yeah, that's not my thing. What I found for me was the process of the unclenching, as you call it, is for me is a softening, which freediving, you have to relax. It's all about being really relaxed in the process. And that's what helps you hold your breath and stay calmer, move efficiently, and last longer. And, it took me a while of doing freediving to get to the point where I could be in 10 meters of water freediving and not go, and have that lateral clench, right? And that's practice at softening, practice at taking time. And so sometimes it's a quick thing and sometimes it's a slow softening, right? So the softening happens in different speeds and rhythms, right? And it's identifying the situation and which one it is. Do you do the big splash launching your business, or are you someone who needs to do a slow trickle of like slowly letting yourself network and find people, right? The people who are live launches are probably more skydiving people, right? Like big moment, big thing, right? And then someone like me is like, I'm just going to like shuffle, do little things, like little passing, talking to so-and-so, networking. Like, it's not that I'm not doing stuff, but it's smaller steps. And so there's that different pace and rhythm, I feel, that's quite important that we might learn. And also not always does that approach. Sometimes I need to do something big and like, really like go for it and be in that fast moving energy. And so different changes in the nervous system require that, like a different choice of action and speed of action and scale of action. With that.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. I think it's really listening. Like, I do big things and I do small things, and I never know what they're going to be. I don't really plan for them. Like, I've done big launches and I've done slow trickle launches, and it's it's a few things. Like, yes, it might be my nervous system, but it's what the world can handle as well. So I do that balance of the external and the internal, because, I think it's all really balanced. That's why it's really important to have your big stuff and your slow stuff. We need to create the balance in our life, and that's what keeps my nervous system calm. If it was all big, my nervous system would be freaking out. If it was all slow, my nervous system would be like, oh, can we just move already? So I think it's really important to have that balance, because if we're only doing slow stuff, then you're being guided by fear. Like your body doesn't want that. Your body, there's something holding you back. And if you're only like being driven by adrenaline, well, then, you can say the same thing. You need an external, like you need the adrenaline to push you. It's like it's not natural. So it's really important to have a look at really go, because when you break things down like that, it becomes so clear. But if you don't do that, I think it's reflection is really important for your nervous system, because it gives you the proof. Oh, yes, I am on track. Your nervous system goes, oh, because otherwise it's like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And if you have that daily 5-minute review to go, what went well, what would I change, congratulate yourself and all of that, then you don't have those, like on your birthday or the end of the year or something like that, those big reviews of your life, and then they have to make ginormous changes, and your nervous system's going, oh my God, it's going to be really hard work, I don't want to do it. And then you put it off, and then it gets worse and worse, right? But if you have these tiny little changes just every day, and so you're giving your nervous system, see, you are on track. Hey, look, because your nervous system needs proof, and that's kind of what I talk about with people with intuition, for example, is like I'll get a sign and I'll go, oh, I think that's a sign. And then I'll go, like, I'll talk to my guides and I'll go, look, I'm pretty sure that's a sign, but can you just give me a couple more just to make sure? Yeah. And that's the nervous system talking. It's going, hey, I really need some concrete proof.
Yeah, exactly. And it's support, right? It's like the evidence is basically support of the direction that we're taking. And I guess there's the review piece. For me, what I always found really helpful was also like a check-in in the morning when I wake up. Is first thing I do is like, what have I woken up into? Like I do my practices, but not every day am I going to wake up and go, oh, I'm in a really good place. My energy is great. Like some days I wake up and I'm like, I'm feeling really, really sensitive. And I'm really like, like my nervous system is really, really feeling whatever's going on, possibly in the world, possibly it's a personal thing, maybe it's a family thing, whatever it is. And I use that check-in the morning to say, this is my capacity and what I need to show up for. I'm going to show up for, but I might need to adjust the other things where I've got moments to give myself more space for my nervous system to get a reset. And then the days that I'm on fire, I'm like, great, I'm going to like really nail my to-do list. And I'm going to be like on action, like getting recordings done. So like there are days when I can't do a video. There are days when I can do a video. And so just really honoring as best as we can within what choices we have, what the nervous system is going to be expanding into and moving through. And when you're just pushing to burnout.
Absolutely. And you've just nailed it. That's exactly it. So it's really that listening piece, but, and really nurturing yourself. It's like, this is what I feel like doing. This is where I feel driven. But I think if we also then look at the bigger picture, sometimes we go, oh, I can't do that thing today. And we beat ourselves up and but if we have a look at that, of the bigger picture, there might be a reason why I'm not actually supposed to do it today. It's actually better on another day for whatever reason we're not aware of in that moment. So it's that trust factor as well, that not everything's about you.
About right now, right? It's like we can take the weight of the world on our shoulders and think we've got a million things to do and they all need to be done today. And actually, it's fine if some of them fall off the wagon, never get done. Other things are done in a month's time and someone else does them and they do them in a different way, which is actually better for everyone else.
Exactly.
Right. But it's like letting go of those things and making it, like you say, less personal. That beautiful Mexican tradition of it not being personal from Don Miguel Ruiz, is very much that teacher of taking things less personally. And I think that really, check in, know where you're at so that you know how you can show up, but don't take it personally that you can and can't do stuff. And so when it comes to I feel that one of the things you're really supporting is like a constant nudging of that facing fear, kind of in, some days it's bigger, some days it's smaller, but we're not sitting in comfort too much.
So the nervous system in its natural state is comfortable. So like what I do is I unravel the nervous system so it becomes comfortable. So it's more that you're just like, oh, that's happening, but it's not triggering you. It's like you're still going through that whatever experience, but it doesn't trigger you like it did before. You're not attached to it.
You're not clenching as it's happening. You're just kind of going, la, 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 la.
Yeah. And because your nervous system has this trust, it's relaxed through this thing because it's had a lot of proof that it's going to be okay. It's because every issue comes down to safety stuff. It's not safe to be. It's not safe to be me. It's not safe to be seen. It's not safe to want. It's not safe to want what I want. And it's not safe to feel. So if we can unravel all of those safety issues, then when situations come up in life, and they will, because hello, look at the world we live in, it's just you go, okay, well, what do I need to do about this? Is it something or not? That aligned action thing. It's not just pretending that everything's fine, because that's just a fear. I don't want to look at it. It's actually going, okay, there's something happening here. Is there an action or not? And that's where, your intuition is more aligned with you as well, because when your intuition's, bang on or working well, that's also keeps you safe. So in that unraveling, your intuition opens up, and you can actually be guided through life through that internal signal that goes, nope, we're going in this direction today. And you're like, oh, okay, all right. But there was one thing you said before about, doing stuff is, I think it's really important that we live in such a busy world. And the reason, if I'm really honest, which people don't like hearing, is that the reason that people are busy is to avoid looking at their stuff.
Yeah. And that's the thing that we're most fearful of, right? The biggest fear is the turning around, looking at yourself and thinking, God, am I going to meet a monster? Or, am I going to get consumed by feelings? Am I going to what am I going to get lost in, right? Am I going to become like the selfish person? Like whatever the belief is about why turning around, looking and meeting yourself is such a scary thing. And it reminds me of the Marianne Williamson quote, that the greatest fear is your own power. And and that's ultimately sits behind meeting yourself, right? Is that power to be present, as you were just saying, and not be scared. Like that's the power that we're scared of, is actually the realization that there's nothing to fear. And that when we're present, we will just deal with things will show up that support us, and we'll move through life in ease, not busy. I don't have time. There's too much. I'm overwhelmed. And so there's that fear piece really is actually the fear of there's nothing to fear, ironically. But there's a lot of things that we can put in place that we can be fearful of. And it leads me to the question that I was really, really keen to ask you about your views on, which is that, there are certain teachings that talk about how this time is one of conscious evolution, where our species is changing, it's evolving from the Homo sapien to something else. And, as part of the Gene Keys, which is a contemplative, reflective system that I work with, we have the theory of Homo sanctus that comes from is an evolution from human design, that we're evolving into more of our light body and less this physical being that has to be in fear of survival. And to me, part of this evolution is realizing that most of us, not everyone on the planet, some people are living in terrible zones where they really do have to still be very fearful of their life. But the majority of
They
people
have
who are
real fears that are actually real, and it's like totally legitimate. It's like, yeah, that's a real thing you're dealing with.
exactly. And I don't want to undermine that, but most people who are listening to this don't live in that level of real fear, where the evolution is we don't need to be buying into that type of survival fear, because that's not the evolution of the species, is the realization that we don't have anything to fear, and living from that place of recognizing that this body doesn't need to fear all of these things. And that is that fear of looking within to that true power. And I'd love your view on how the nervous system might be evolving.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic. Um, and there's a lot of aspects to it. So the first thing I want to say is there are three waves. Have you heard of the three-wave evolution process?
But explain that
So,
for listeners if you can.
yeah. So the first wave is expansion. It's the awakening. It's the seeing what's really going on. And that has caused a big problem in the evolution process, which is partly affecting why people are afraid of looking at themselves. Because what it's caused is people being in perpetual cycles of healing and never actually landing. So it's like, if I'm going to go and face myself and feel all the feels and do all the things, I want to get to the other side where I'm no longer having to do that, right? I don't want to be in that perpetual cycle. It's exhausting, and everybody's exhausted because of that. And that's what has happened. All this love and light is actually, if I'm really honest, it's spiritual bypassing. And because you're not really landing, you're not really experiencing it, you're just trying to jump to the place where I'm in my crystalline body and I'm a high vibration, look at me, and that's performance. That's not really landing in your body. And that's what the first wave was. It was an essential step. We had to open up and crack ourselves open from, where we were. Hello, like, look at the history of the planet. There's some pretty gruesome things have gone on. We've got World War II and like all these, really heavy, dense 3D things have been happening. Last year, I co-activated the 12D grid with a friend, and it all happened. I was never intending to do it. I wasn't looking for it. It just was an experience that happened, and I was, and it was too many synchronicities that I know that it happened. Because when really out there things happen, you kind of ask those questions like, did that really happen? But there was so many synchronicities that I was just like, yeah, it really did happen. And I've got you can find the whole story. It's a long story. So I've got a website called walkyourgridpoint.earth that you can find the whole story, and there's free tools and there's parts that everybody on the planet can play in order to help anchor that grid. But anyway, basically, because we've all heard, we're moving to 5D, or some people haven't, whatever. But it's about wholeness, us stepping into wholeness. And that's what is the second wave is about embodiment, right? Which is why it's really, timely that you're talking about fear, because it's like we can do all this work on our energy system, but it's through our nervous system that we integrate. Yeah. And so that's why nervous system is the most critical thing we can be looking at right now. Somatic work, embodiment work, and, breath work, right? We can, but gentle breath work, like none of this forceful stuff. And because we're moving beyond the force. That was the expansion phase. Now it's coming into the gentle naturalness. Because if we, have a look at, we can go without, food for a certain period of time. We can go without water for a small period of time, but we can't go without breath. So breath is the most important thing. So, and because if we have a look at the nervous system, I'm sidetracking here. Uh, when we clench because we've got the three areas of our brain, right? You've got the limbic, and you've got the survival area. You've got the limbic, and you've got the cerebellum,
prefrontal cortex, and
and so you've
yeah.
got those three areas, and the core area, the original one, which they sometimes call the dinosaur brain, is that survival stuff. And so every time we do those, take that, right, we'll use a little bit less, till it gets down to survival. So through breath, we expand the capacity of our brain. And so now we're just kind of understanding that nervous system body connection piece a little bit more. And so then if we look at we're in the second wave, which is that embodiment wave, which is really the nervous system is what everyone should be looking at right now. Let's, try and step away from this, raise your vibration stuff and come back into you, come back home, right? And that's really
I guess to relate that to something people might want to grab hold of as well is that, your vibration is what your nervous system is doing. Your nervous system is oscillating. Like that's what your nervous system does. It oscillates between the polarities. Like if we think about this from that energetics, potential bypassing mental viewpoints. Because I just think bypassing is just going mental overthinking kind of, process, right? It's all the same thing. We're just stuck in our head still. Is that the nervous system just oscillates between like on off kind of thing, but it's not even on off, it's like extremes.
If we look at it, it's more a rest and
rest and move. Yeah, it's rest and active, right? So it's kind of like it's oscillating between two places. So there's this constant oscillation. How chaotic and what the rhythm of that is the vibration that we emit as an experience, as how we receive things and how we are received by what we transmit in our interaction. And that comes through things like the tone in my voice, right? The speed, the quality, how loud it is. It comes through when we're with people, the smell of their sweat. So like there's all the physiological cues that come with what the nervous system does, like pupil dilation, how attractive someone appears, right? How relaxed their face is, how open their body is. All of those nonverbal cues are your vibration.
As you said that, your camera kind of went, your pupil dilation, your camera went, expanded and then contracted. It was cool.
But this is it, right? The vibration is in everything. But for us as a human, the tuning fork of what we experience comes through the nervous system.
I love that. The tuning fork. Beautiful, beautifully worded.
And that's why people love sound healing. Sound healing can be so helpful, right? Because it can help us sense into a different vibration, a different tune. It's why being with the right groups of people can help us get into certain states because we get a group harmonic resonance. But it's also why there's certain people that, like their vibration is so off because their nervous system is so crazy and it sends everyone into the same spin. And so that works even with leaders, right? A leader that leads from fear and is in that push, like I've got all this energy to push, like it activates the energy of everyone else going, yes, and I push because then I'm going to feel like I'm moving through it, but I'm moving through it from an agitated, dysregulated place, right? As opposed to, I'm just going to sit this one out because I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, being another option. Or, it's like, okay, let's come together and not have a mental idea of what on earth we're doing, but we're just going to sit here and tune in together and regulate our nervous systems until we all get into a really nice co-regulated place. And that doesn't even have to be in person. That can be online.
Pretty much what we're doing right now. That's kind of what we said at the start, wasn't it? We don't know where we're going to go. Let's just do it.
It's just like, but it's this ability, like if you can hold that your own tuning fork and learn to tune your tuning fork. And that's, I think, the piece right now in that coming into wholeness is it's recognizing that I have the power to tune my fork, and I don't need to go out and find someone else to knock me on the head to do it. Like, I tune myself and I choose the vibration and how I move through finding my tune for today. And that then changes, obviously, my interactions with the world.
So beautifully put. I really loved everything you said, and that felt like a really big download, like it was just coming from somewhere deep and ancient. And but one thing I do want to say though is um, it's okay if, externally you are getting banged on the head, because I think, people go into judgment of like, oh, it shouldn't be, learning my lessons through difficult things and external challenges, that be like, especially in the spiritual community, people do that a lot. And I just want to say, don't judge yourself. It's okay. You know, to be in a place where you are 100% creating your world, where you aren't having external experiences to learn and guide you, is not many people on the planet are in that place, to be honest. I'm not
I don't, but
100%.
I don't even, I mean, I don't believe that even some of the very high, level, more in self-realized teachers don't, my understanding from people who I know who've been with the Dalai Lama or have been with Amma is that it's not like there isn't still emotional experience moving through them. It's not like they don't still have these waves of being human. It's just that it flows through them, right? It doesn't grab hold. They don't take it personally. They don't get attached to the experience of, oh my God, I did something wrong. What do I have to learn? I'm such a bad person, which is what we do when we take it personally. It becomes just something that moves through, and maybe there's something in there that's like, oh, that's an interesting way. That was different. Right. And can we loosen, just like you say, with that grip, right? All we're doing when we're taking it personally is we're gripping. Whereas if I loosen it and I just go, it was a bit shitty. Why did that just happen in my life? Like, was it them? Was it me? Like, why did I need to have a shitty experience today with that person? And there is that piece where sometimes like they're just having a bad day and you can just give it back to them. It's not mine. And that's the lesson for you, is it's not mine. Great. And other times it's like, oh, actually, yeah, I am really quite irksome. And actually, yeah, I'm being a bit of a grouch, and I maybe I need to be careful with people who are going to trigger my grouch. So I'm not too mean, which might happen, right? And so it gives us that bit of awareness. And then where does that grouch come from? What's just happened underneath that's calling it? And so sometimes there's something to explore. Sometimes it's like just recognizing what's yours, what's not, because we do have so much overwhelming our nervous system, with the ability to connect with so many people. There's so much we can get involved in and feel a part of, and need to help and save the world, or be a part, be an activist in the world. And maybe that's just not where you need to put your energy, because you're going to be exhausted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really about being present that helps to detach you from the past or those future stories. And I had this, I'm just gonna like keep it real. While you were talking, I, instead of like the whole conversation that we've had so far, I've just been 100% there with you, just listening with you. And if I felt like talking, I'd talk or whatever. And you were talking. And then I had this weird thought of, I should say something. Why am I saying something? And I was just like, whoa, where's that coming from? I wasn't present there with you. And so I think, I observed this weird thought pop in from wherever it came. And then I went, oh, I need to talk about presence a little bit more. And so I had this little thought process going on while you were talking. And, I don't think people do presence really well. I have this process of it's this 5-word process that I take people through in order to get present. And it's actually really simple. It's something I take people through with my Sovereign Self program system that I, have for people available. And, and it's really simple. So it's being present and catch yourself. Like, I think that was a really great example of, a lot of people, when people are talking, they're too busy thinking about what am I going to say next, or, what do I have to do when I'm finished here, or whatever, right? And rather than just really listening and being there in the moment, and that's where the magic happens. And so I just wanted to share that.
No, I really felt the truth of that when you were saying it, and it really reminds me of when you've been talking about breath work today as well, in terms of the importance of breath work for the nervous system. And the style of breath work that I trained in, which is what led us to being connected, was through friends who've done the same breath work style, is so gentle, is exactly that. You breathe and your nervous system works out how fast or how slow you need to breathe to move something through. And that's what makes it so powerful, but it's lovely and gentle. And it was during the training of becoming a facilitator that I remember one of my teachers made the point that you don't go into a session with any plan. You don't go into the session with this is going to happen, we're going to work through this. You just need to be present and fully alive. And as someone's breathing, you're fully present and with them. You're not checking your phone. You might need to take notes if you're needing to track what's going on, like that's fine. But the key, if that helps you stay present, that's the key, is you only take notes to stay present in tracking what's going on, because it can be quite complicated. But I love that, because what I've realized is in all my work, I don't plan stuff. And what happens is my business turned around and started intuitively planning itself. And I'm doing stuff where I don't really know why or the what, or I have none of the rational, logical explanation, because something else, I've learned to trust that voice that comes out when I'm really present, and know that that's holding, and not in a way that isn't cognizant of care and attention to the energy and the vibration that I'm in. Right? I don't just go, I'm present and here's my trauma. Right? I'm present and what's allowed to come through. And sometimes it's better than other times. I don't know. The receiver can tell me what they find works or doesn't work. And I don't talk in easy logic, because often it's
non-linear.
Because it's non-linear. And again, it comes back to the attunement, is the vibration, right? When we're really present, the vibration does more of the communication than the words.
Bingo. Yeah.
Right. And that's how our nervous system changes. And then we get less triggered by words. And you said it like that, you said that. And it's the vibration. And we can feel if I wasn't really present with my vibration, I probably did just do something. Right. And then I can own it and go, yeah, actually, I wasn't present with my vibration. I was a bit of a twat. That's okay. And then we move on.
And also with the presence thing, I find, because people are like, oh God, it's really hard work to face your stuff and deal with it. And, because to actually you go, free diving and me go skydiving, there is a whole process of me going, oh my God, I'm so scared and I've got to work through this. It's exhausting, right? And that's why, and then trying to climb up the rope, like that's not fun. No part of that's fun. Maybe afterwards when it's all done, it's great because you have that everything dropped off you, but in the process, not so much. But in that presence, it's more of a gentle way of detaching from your past and your present past and future, attachments. So it's like the more I can be present, I'm actually just untangling my nervous system from all those attachments. And so this is how we can do it naturally, without force, without having to face big things.
And through relationship, right? And then it's like, that's where relationships are really healing, right? And even if the conversation goes wrong, right? That's okay. That's part of the healing of it. because we're recognizing I fell in or out of presence. Like I just let something come in that took me away. And that's okay if I own that and then come back to being present, and then if I need to go back and deal with that and process that, then I can do that as its own proper process that needs more attention. And there was something in what you were just saying around, we may have a whole big process to face a fear, and it's not very much fun in the process. But one of the things that my movement clients, so I have clients who just want to do movement, and that's a really beautiful way somatically to work through stuff, and we don't have to have a chat. And those clients love that. And there's a label for certain movements that I make people do to build up their resilience and their strength, and it's called Nidra. Because
what is it called?
Nidra. Because you're going to become good at it and you're going to feel really awesome once you've accomplished it. But in the process, you're going to really hate it. And you're probably going to really hate me for making you do it. And that's Nidra. Because it's not fun to you, but I get the fun in watching you grow into it and discover that strength, that flexibility, that openness in your body that you didn't have before. And so, it's been a running joke for well over, like 10 years. That this is a form of like NIDS growth program with people who do movement. But it is a part, right, of our growth, is that in that process of facing fear, it's not fun. And often what happens, and I don't know about you, but there are moments sometimes where you overcome that fear and you're like, I just wasn't scared. I don't know how. Like I went through the whole thing, but none of that, no clenching, no breath holding came up. I just moved through it. And that was just, wow, that's a change. And that's the key. That's the shift, right? In holding presence, is to see that we don't need all of the tools and all of the steps to get us to something. Suddenly we're just doing it and going, oh, I've landed.
And I think that's, the first wave, second wave stuff is, or even before the first wave, is like, if you have a look at how the process they used to go through in order to do things, it was so much more complex and cumbersome. These days, it's the simpler, the better, the simpler, the truer, and the simpler, the more effective. And, they used to go, you have to do this and you have to do this, and then, do this, woo, and I don't know, whatever, right? And, but now it's like, I can just be present, and I don't have to go through 20 billion steps, and it's, and it's not, I don't have to step into fear to release fear. That almost sounds a bit contradictory to me.
No, but it reminds me of, there used to be a program at London Zoo for people who were scared of spiders, which in England is like a joke because obviously the spiders are the most harmless little garden things. And it was immersive treatment. So you get immersed in having to hold and touch spiders. Right. And that has been, immersion approach has been a part of helping people move through fear.
Well, isn't that what we did with the skydiving and the freediving?
And that's the thing. Sometimes that's what we have to do to have the confidence to trust ourselves. We have to go through, like I said, building the trust, building the evidence. And so sometimes there is that moving through, and maybe that's, like you say, in the second wave, as we come back to wholeness, there's an element of all of us not only learning to trust what's within, that you've got the resources and the presence, and from that presence comes the intuitive resourcefulness and gifts of synchronicity that work and benefit us all. And in that, we can trust all of humanity, and everyone else to work together and benefit all of our evolution on this planet. And that's kind of, that's a current trust building. It doesn't just come fully in the moment for everyone, because yes, it would be lovely if we could all just be present, but not everyone's there, right? And so we're still in that time frame. We're still building that trust muscle, which will help us all come into greater presence.
Absolutely. I think also, if we have more of an understanding of the earth that we live on, but we can not have to do these, forceful push through our fears kind of thing that you and I did. So if we look, for example, at spiders, so all animals have a specific energy that they're here to hold humans in and to help us to grow and move through. So spiders, for example, are all about the future, change. And so if instead of sitting with spiders crawling all over you, and I don't really have a fear of spiders at all, but that doesn't sound pleasant to me anyway. And instead of doing that, what if we just looked at it as, oh, what if I unravel my nervous system around change? That might be a bit of a gentler way to go. Or if we look at, say, for example, water, deep water. It's like water, the element of water is about emotions. Like each element deals with different things. So if you're having a trouble with deep water, so that's deep emotions, what if you allowed yourself to go really, really deep? I mean, because you do, and that's been your process of going deep in your emotions. So that is a reflection of that process. So if we have a look and the deeper we go, the more we're more one with the earth. And so then we can go, oh, what is this actually showing me? And what's the most gentle way I can go about, embodying that? Because you were like completely immersed in the water. I want to be completely immersed in my emotions. So it's kind of interesting when we look at things on a bigger picture as well.
And I think that's the beauty of symbolism, that everything, there's always symbols around. Like you were saying with the intuition, you can pick a symbol to be the help me trust that this is the thing I'm to do. Show me this symbol. And if you learn to read the symbols, and that doesn't mean you have to follow numerology and know what all of the numbers mean, it's whatever symbols mean to you and help represent. And it can be useful to look at symbols and what other teachings have shared and what the commonality might be of those, to guide you with, okay, well, what is this? And I fully agree with, like deep water, fully in there with deep emotions, what was that? But it really helps us if we can see those little signs and go, okay, hang on a minute, this is showing me something. What is that? And also curiosity. I think that to me is a key piece.
It's the key. Without curiosity, you're not going to grow. Full stop.
Yeah.
It's like, what's life without curiosity? It would be boring.
And so that curiosity of like, what's happening to my nervous system? How is it unraveling? Why is it not wanting to unravel like that? Where is it? Like, what's that resistance? Just to me, I grew up dancing. So to me, it's a dance. It's like the dance with the nervous system. And I'm like, oh, it's that. Who's leading? Which side's leading? Which one's moving? How is it moving? And just really allowing yourself to be curious in the process of it rather than it needing to be complete and done so we can move on to the next bit of task doing. And that kind of talks to that shift between wave 1 and wave 2. I think as well, you were saying about healing and moving past healing and into wholeness. Those parts are still going to keep coming up, but I'm whole. And in fact, I'm more whole the more of those parts that want to get into the party and be a part of me.
Beautiful. I would just I love the dance thing analogy, but for me, I like, and I hear people say that, and I totally agree. It is a dance, it's a movement, but like, well, I did ballet when I was a little girl, and I wasn't very good at it, by the way, but I did. It wasn't my thing. I guess to me, I would describe it as a conversation. That's exactly what you were just saying. It's that conversation you're having with yourself. Oh, I'm noticing this coming up. What does that mean? What do I need to do something about it? Like you talking about your internal dialogue with your nervous system. And, when I was observing you, I was with you, listening to you before, and then all of a sudden I had this thought come in saying I should talk more. That was, so it's noticing these things and not ignoring them, because that's where stuff gets trapped and we get stuck is we notice them. People do notice them, and then they go, no, 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 I don't have time for that right now. No, I don't have time to pay attention to that thing right now. But you always do. Like, I was having that conversation with you, and I still managed to have this mini conversation in my head and still be somewhat present. And so you do have time for it. You just think you don't. And so it's just paying attention. And because the more we ignore, and we start to shut down and we start to become numb. And so we stop getting the little messages because we've blocked them out so much. So it's a choice that you've made tiny little choices. No, not right now, not right now, not right now. So all you have to do is make a choice like, okay, right now. Okay, I'm going to pay attention now, and just make that choice. You don't have to do anything. There's nothing big, grand gesture. Just make a choice.
That's beautiful, Kemina. I love that. And it reminds me, last month, I do a free monthly call with my community and anyone else who wants to sign up. I keep it small so that we can really give support to the group. But what had come up was a mindfulness practice, but for emotions. And so, I teach it as you just sit and allow what it is that wants to come up, minutes, and you just sit with what wants to come up. You don't have to have a theme. You just open what's in my best, highest good for all beings and just meet what wants to rise. And so much happens in such a short amount of time. But again, you're giving the space to the things that maybe you didn't have time for because you had kids screaming at you and, they were about to like jump off the staircase or whatever, and it's like you couldn't deal with your stuff. You've got important things in front of you that you need to give your focus to, but you do need to give yourself time at some point. And it doesn't need to be long, and it isn't a big practice. It's literally just sitting there and saying, okay, what really wants to be felt? Maybe you need tissues. That's fine. Or maybe you find yourself laughing. Great. Like whatever it is that happens, that the body does to move that energy and help your nervous system find regulation with what it is that you haven't had space to be with and be present with. And that to me is the key that I find with breathwork. It's being present with what wants to have life energy given to it. What's moving through us wants to experience itself through life. It wants. And that breath is giving it life. That awareness and breath gives the energy all it seeks. And then it moves on.
And then we're like, that nervous system flow again.
Yeah.
So nice. Space rather than being so wound up.
So I'm mindful of time, and I'm really grateful for your time, Kemina. If you like, did you want to share one little bit about the third wave? Because we didn't get to the third wave before.
Well, I think the third wave is the non-spiritual. It's where we're just being. We're not. We just are. We just am. I am, and that's what it is. It's no performance, no masks, no lies, no pretending. It's just we are.
Beautiful. Wow. Knowing that, the more that we learn to be with what we are right now, let our nervous system integrate that, we can come to more of that and hold that. And in the meantime, right, just feeling what there is to be felt, and know that, it's not about what it looks like externally, right? It's that being present and just really allowing it to come through. And that helps the nervous system to have its moments of highs and its lows. And we just regulate through those ups and downs. And so I'm really grateful for your time and the transmissions that come through you in terms of helping people to tap into. And I think it's great that we've had different angles from both of us about where people might be able to find things. So I feel like this has been a really rich conversation, hopefully for people to tap into different pieces for them. And I like to finish, and I know you said about, it's not all love and light, but I like to ask a finishing question, which is, what lights you up?
That's not love and light. That's a joy question. Joy's fun. What lights me up? I'm gonna say wisdom. That's been my guiding force in my life. Just having understanding wisdom. Like I discover something I didn't know before. And so I go, oh, I need to know more about that. That lights me up.
Love it. I love it. So just that, I feel like you're such the explorer of experiencing life. It's beautiful. So thank you. Like, and anyone else who, I'd love it if people would comment if they're an explorer, if they love that wisdom piece too, because it's
what lights you up?
What lights me up? Feeling, sense, experience of sensing life. Like I love like sense, just physical, visceral feeling. That's like emotions, thoughts, body. Like I love feeling. That's the gift of being in a body. That's what this sense party is here for. And I just think it's like,
yeah, we're human. We experience it to the fullest, eh?
Exactly. And it's like, that's what I'm here, right? I'm a lit up little body. And when my soul leaves and it doesn't want to experience it through this anymore, I will not be very light. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not sure I like that, but it still lights me up. It just lights me up going, I'm working it out. So yeah, that's mine.
I love this chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kemina. And anyone who wants to find out about Kemina's, I've forgotten the name of it, your 5-step method.
And system.
That was it.
Coherence Lab.
Cool. Well, the links are going to be below. Check the show notes as well to connect with Kemina. She's awesome. You're always going to laugh when you connect with Kemina. There's always going to bring up things that are released through joy and maybe some tears too. Thanks so much, Kemina.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Have a wonderful day.